you. Tēnā tātou, te whare. Welcome to the Regional Transport Committee hui. Me tuau, ki te mihi ki ngā mati o te wā, ngā whakaaro nui, ki te kingi tūheitia, i takoto mai rā, ki runga o tūranga waiwai i tēnei wā. Me te motu, e hui ana ki roko waikato, te poroko ki aia. Hei rā, kanui te mihi ki aia. O tira ngā mati katoa o te tai rā whiti e mihi ki aia. Reira haere atu rā koutou, o ki mai ki a tātou, ngā waihotanga iho rā taumā, tēnā tātou. Ngā mihi nui ki ngā manuhiri, ngā tuahine, ko tai mai, hei whakakanohi te Runanganui o Ngati Porou tēnei rā, tēnā rā kōrua, akune ka whakataua i a kōrua ki konei, engari kanui te mihi ki a tātou i tēnei. He paku Karakia, which is little Karakia to Staria hui. Ai te atua tēnei mātou, tuku whakamomiti ki a koe tēnei rā, kia manakitia tēnei huihuinga, kia potai ngā whakaaro, ngā whakataunga, i roto i te whakaaro nui mo ngā hāpori o te tai rā whiti. Tēnei anō ka inoi ki a koe, kia uhi ata kua wai au pā ki runga i ngā whānau e noho pani ana i tēnei wā. Te motu e hui tahi ana ki roto o Waikato i tēnei wā. Reira tēnei tēnui ki a koe, hai anei ake. It's been a while since we met everybody. 23rd of May was our last week, it's a long time ago. So, warm welcome back to everybody. So we're just going to go through our agenda. And we've got a few things to get through today. So, do we have any apologies? We're all here, no apologies. Declarations of interest. We've got 2 minutes there. Confirmation of non-confidential minutes. So, Annie set it up ages ago. Can we have a mover? I will seconder. Thanks, Councillor Gregory. Councillor Thompson, seconded. All in favour? Carried. And confirmation of confidential minutes from the 23rd of May. It's on page 8. I'll move those. Can somebody second those? Linda, all in favour? Carried. Okay. Over to our action register. Yes, Councillor Gregory?
Just in regards to that first one, I didn't think it was a removal of logging trucks from one road, I thought it was removal of heavy traffic.
So that's a change. So that was due end of this month, yeah?
Yeah, so in terms of the report back, now that we're starting to get the funding decisions and some of the detail come through, we thought it would be better to, I guess, bring that information back with that context for you in terms of the next 3 years in terms of the funding available and where.
Okay, thank you. And just noting the funding for the officer role is not included in the final version of the Regional Transport Plan, Land Transport Plan, so right, something we were asking for. So that's the action register, governance work plan, stuff in our agenda today, and on to leave of absence, none. Acknowledgements and tributes, again in my mihi, I acknowledge the passing of Kingi Tūheitia and all of our people that are currently there, paying tribute to him. So we are now on to public input and petitions. Tēnā kōrua, tēnā wā ki te tipu. Runanganui o Ngati Porou, Whiti Timutimu being not too nearly into director now, and Kotahi. So the process, wahinema, is we've got 15 minutes, is that plenty of time? Recording with us, and thank you for your email. Really pleased that you've come, so we can hear what the concerns are of iwi in regards to State Highway 35 and our regional plan. Give us some good feedback, and this is not a time for debate, just for listening and today for questions.
Tēnā tātou, tuatahi mōku kia mihi kia koe te hiamana tuahine mō tō whakai kia kuhu mai maiwa ki tēnei ngā hui. I tiraki kia koutou nā kai kauni hira. Kia koe Nadine, tō mahi nunui he tiaki I tēnei o ngā hāpuri o te tairāwhiti. Nā ringa raupā ki muri, tēnei te mihi kia koutou. O tira tautoko hia nā mihi kua mihia, ki te whānau pani o tō tātou kini potatau te whirowhiro, te tuawhitu, moi mai rā rutui nā ringa o tō tātou watu. Hopefully that didn't take up too much of my time, but it's really important that we acknowledge everyone in the space. We'll do a couple of intros so you know who we are, and then we'll get into our kōrero. So we'll start with you and I'll end with me.
Tēnā tātou, o tira e te mau au te pōtai mo te Runanganui o Ngati Porou I tēnei wā ka tika ka mihi ki aku ua tawhito e mahi ana I roto I tēnei whare o te awarua, ka tika ka mihi ki a koutou I hapai a tātou hapori, a tātou iwi, a tātou hapu whānau rānei. Kei te kōhere tēnei, he uri tēnei mō Porourangi e mihi ana, I tēnei wā he ringa awhina ki te Runanganui o Ngati Porou, kei te whai ake I ngā, ki te whakatikahia I tō tātou rori, ki te hapai ake a tātou wawata, a tātou moemoea e pāna ki te whai au, no reira tēnā. O tira te tiamana mahau e whai wā, mamawa, hei kanohi e rua, mo te tini me te mano o Ngati Porou kei muri maua. No reira tēnā tātou. Greetings everyone, just acknowledging being a past staff member here at GDC and all my past colleagues and also some older, not older age, but older councillors. It's good to be happily working with you a bit closer moving forward into the future. Here for Ngati Porou, I'm supporting Ngati Porou with strategic advice around obviously aspirations around our shared interest in State Highway 35, but also the associated taiao impacts and land use impacts. Not for this committee, but it's really where the aspiration is heading. Kia ora tātou.
Wai huki a hau ko whitiare Timutimu, mō ngā hapu te ao tāwirirangi rua taupare me te aitanga mate. I'm Whiti. I come from the same hapu as my whanauna Jean over there. Ngā mihi nui ki a koe e te whanauna. And I'm here representing te Runanganui o Ngati Porou, acknowledging the hands that were at the table prior to me, but we are rebuilding our relationship here, and this is the start really to ensure that we work together. There's a whakatauki in Māoridom, Māwiwi whenua, Māwiwi tangata. So when our land is sick, so too are the people. We'd like to work with you to ensure that we turn that around. So we're coming here, obviously working with Linda and other capacities, and really working with our people at home. So bringing their voices to the table to ensure that actually we all here for the betterment of our communities. I acknowledge also our prior governance opportunities in Te Kāhui, we both worked to actually create safety in a driving capacity with our drivers in Te Kahui and long-standing arrangement with Tairāwhiti Reap and ensuring that we had safe drivers on the East Coast. So again, not only safety in terms of the drivers, but safety in terms of our rori. We'll get to the cut. So I've got some lovely talking notes provided by Keita, and I'll read through them and then we can take some questions at the end. If you need any more, I'll lean on my subject matter expert on my left. But anei tātou. The importance of State Highway 35 to Ngati Porou. Investment in high quality and reliable roading infrastructure has never been so urgent and critical for Tairāwhiti as it is now. We have endured repeated devastation and disruption from 7 severe weather events over the past 2 years. The damage to State Highway 35 is unprecedented in terms of its severity, magnitude and coverage. State Highway 35 is a road of primary significance to Ngati Porou. It connects thousands of our whānau who are living in Arohe and many thousands who return regularly to the whenua of their tipuna. It links our industries to regional, national and international markets. When disruptions occur as frequently as they have in the recent years, our economy and our very health and safety is put in jeopardy. Highways like State Highway 35 should sit in their own investment category that sit alongside roads of national significance, one that recognises the dire state of the infrastructure, the fact that the State Highway is a lifeline for towns along the East Coast, and that climate change will make severe weather more frequent and damaging to the highway over the next decade and beyond. We have said it as much in our submission on the draft GPS and on the RLTP. However, we find that these documents fail to make a strong case for a resilient State Highway 35. Relegating essential repairs at Hikuwai, at Mangahaueni, at Kopuaroa and elsewhere to an unfunded wish list. This simply isn't acceptable. We also note that neither the NLTP nor the RLTP acknowledge the agreement that the Crown and GDC have made alongside Ngati Porou to protect and restore the Waiapu River. This agreement is a commitment born from our treaty settlement and contained in both the Waiapu Accord, our Memorandum of Understanding with the Crown and GDC, and the MRA Joint Management Agreement over the Waiapu River. This is important because a significant chunk of the alignment of State Highway 35 sits in the Waiapu catchment, and recovery and resilience works have a cumulative impact on the health of the awa. Sediment from earthworks, hardening of stream banks, use of shotcrete and other roading activities affect the awa and the taonga species that live within and alongside it. While the Accord and JMA relate just to the Waiapu, we have similar concerns for other awa, including the Uawa and Mangahaueni catchments. Given the nature of our whenua and the number of times that State Highway 35 interacts with our awa, we cannot support a resilience investment that does not invoke the duty of care we have to our environment. The Waiapu is of immense spiritual and cultural significance to Ngati Porou. It also suffers from the highest sediment load of all rivers in the country. The whenua around it is highly erosion prone, and more than a century of Crown actions have led to land uses that make it even more vulnerable to slips. The sediment chokes the life in the river and smothers our kaimoana, along the coast. Landslips also cause extensive damage to the highway. We cannot repair the road in isolation from caring for the awa. Activities that protect and restore the awa also reduce the risk of damage to the highway. We believe the best value for money investment is in prevention. On value for money, in line with the GPS, we are very keen to ensure that value for money is achieved. To us, value for money means fixing our damaged roads and bridges well the first time, with resilient designs rather than just a patchwork of recovery projects that will wash down the awa with the next season of severe weather. Using expertise from our rohinga, especially those who are working as local contractors, who have generations of mātauranga local knowledge that is lacking in outside contractors who not live here, who do not live here. Linda was a part of a hui last week where we did just that. Green infrastructure work that restores the natural resilience of the whenua and prevents costly damage to the highway from future weather events. Repairs that do not create new problems for our communities. Our definition of value for money does not seem to be shared with agencies. We're struggling to get just the adverse cultural effects of recovery work to be adequately addressed through monitoring and mitigation. Value for money under NLTP seems to be about building a replacement bridge that will not even be high enough to allow for the 100-year flooding event, such as the Hikuwai, dewatering pieces of land along the highway in a way that overloads local streams and creates new flooding for communities, such as Busby's Hill and Tokomaru, putting off lasting improvements at Mangahauene Gorge indefinitely, isolating future investment into fixing potholes, underslips, overslips on the highway rather than measures that would reduce the number of potholes, underslips and overslips that affect the highway. Our proposal for the Tairāwhiti RLTP are, as stated in our submission, we would like to see the priorities of Ngati Porou and of all iwi in the region to be clearly represented in the Regional Land Transport Plan. The Cyclone Recovery Unit and GDC facilitated many sessions for our hapu and whānau post-cyclone. These reflections remain highly relevant. We also continue to support the recommendations provided in Outrage to Optimism, the report prepared by Ministerial Inquiry on Land Use report. This report recommended an integrated response that included addressing unsustainable land use, building resilience through green infrastructure, and locally run governance and control over recovery. Our proposal arises from these recommendations. Our preferred approach is a regional Tairāwhiti Recovery Authority with joint governance between the Crown, GDC, iwi and hapu. Te Runanganui o Ngati Porou would support rohinga involvement in decision making. This authority would take on all maintenance, recovery and resilience work on the state highways and local roads, alongside the parties' joint commitments to protecting and restoring the Waiapu catchment, other significant awa, and building the wider environmental and cultural resilience of Tairāwhiti. To support the work of a regional recovery authority, we would expect to see the Crown place greater priority on the health, safety and resilience of the environment and people of Tairāwhiti. This includes fully funding the cyclone rebuild activities in the State Highway Investment Proposal, as well as renewing and expanding on its commitment to protecting and restoring the Waiapu. Transport investment would be combined with funding from MPI, and NBIE to incentivise and accelerate environmentally resilient and economically beneficial land use changes in Tairāwhiti, which would have positive spillover effects on the resilience of the transport network and increase the overall benefits of the transport investment. The details of this proposal still need to be worked through between the parties, but in this first instance we are seeking a commitment to build a regional recovery authority that seeks value for money in our sense of the term. Our next steps to fulfil this obligation to Ngāti Porou in the context the Land Transport Act and its own Te Tiriti compass, we ask the Regional Transport Committee to append our comments and proposal to the Regional Land Transport Plan as a record of our involvement in decision-making processes. We ask also the NZTA rep on the RTC to convey our feedback and proposal to NZTA. We seek a response that explains how the resilience of State Highway 35 can be provided for through the National Land Transport Fund and how the agency and Ngāti Porou could forge a better partnership under the LTMA and Te Ara Kotahi. Without these steps by the Regional Transport Committee and NZTA, we cannot see how either agency can demonstrate compliance with Section 18H of the Land Transport Management Act. We will be making this proposal directly to the Crown in our coming end summit. Tēnā tātou.
Thank you for that, those whakaaro and a telling off too, which take on board. I'm going to ask if there are any questions from our committee. Teddy?
It's probably in the reading here, but just briefly, can you explain Section 18H of the LTMA?
They're your relationship and treaty obligations under the Land Transport Management Act that apply to NZTA and this committee. They're partnership principles.
Which we don't currently have on our decision. Okay, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gregory, did you have a question?
Are you asking for this to be attached to the Regional Land Transport Plan that we've already done, or is this for the next one?
As an addendum to the current, to be read with. We highlighted the gaps that are in there that don't reflect Ngāti Porou.
I'm not sure what the process is on that, but I'm sure Heather will be able to advise us. Yes, Councillor Telpa?
When you talk about a regional Tairāwhiti recovery authority, with joint governance, and then it goes on to say that you said the authority would take on all matters. So you're talking about a whole different, other than the council, to be in charge of all roads. Is that what you're saying?
I think it's exploring the scope of what we could do together in that role, and if it's called something else that delivers the same functions. So then you've got, so we use the example of State Highway, but the way it's operating is in isolation of the environmental aspect with our awa, where the Waiwhua Court applies, and the same as land use as well. So the objective is integrating those kind of portfolios. At the moment they're operating in silos. So while we're at the RTC talking about the road, something needs to integrate these things better for the outcomes I think we're collectively seeking.
Linda?
just a request. You mentioned you were seeking a formal response from NZTA. If I could ask for that and make sure it's actioned. You can just pop it through to me and I'll deal with it from there. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Tanu te mihi kia porua. I think there's been a lot of thought put into this, and we want to take some time as a committee to go through it, get some advice as well from the and then we will be in contact in due course, because this is the relationship is really important to us, and this is a good start.
Just want to note that the past hasn't been the greatest, but we hope that from today on we'll get a stronger relationship together. Our board wants to work with our partners, pokohewi ki te pokohewi, shoulder to shoulder, and in some ways coming to the table and having conversations is where we need to be. Our board in general does want a strong relationship with this council, within our mayor and our councillors. We have made a formal request for a cup of tea, and we're waiting for that to happen. But in terms of our taiao, our people have told us at our hui ato at the beginning of the year, that's their priority. So this is part of us listening and actioning and our service to them. So takamihi kia keita, nā keita wēnei kōrero. This is Keita's work. I'm just really the conduit to making it happen on behalf of our board, but acknowledging all her mahi behind. And actually, Whanauna ki muri, he plays a key role at home, and so does our tuahine. We're all here for the betterment of our iwi, and you might sit here and with a portai, but in our hearts, we're here to serve and ensure that we provide a better tomorrow, next year, future. So, yeah. Koenei taku mihi kia koutou. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Telpa.
Just, look, this is something that, this is an exact example of something we as councillors are running into all the time. We are, and our staff trying to be good treaty partners and communicate, but when you come as the iwi and talk to us, and then we get it from a different part of the hapu, we get it that no, they don't speak for us, and we at the moment we're really struggling to see who we're supposed to speak to and who we listen to, and are you speaking for, you know, it's quite hard. It's a really difficult place, and it's, look, I take my hat off to this council and the work that Jeannie's doing and whatnot, because these are conversations that have been really hard to have for a hell of a long time, and it's good that we are having them, but it's still a very difficult place to have and difficult conversation to have without being dragged across the coals for not speaking to the right people. So I just want you to be aware of that's what we get and what we hear.
That's right. Yeah. We're not here for everyone. We're only here for Ngati Porou. So we are the largest iwi in this country. We are. We're 98,000 at the last census. We want to ensure that we can do better for our people. Yes, we have hapu dynamics. It's just part of what iwi politics is, but actually I'm here as a board representative, one of 14, and here to ensure that we can forge forward strong partnerships with our stakeholders. You're one of them. You're one of them. There are many others, but without coming to the table and putting our paper in front of you, we're not a part of the solution moving forward. So, you know, you're here to serve your ratepayers, your customers. We're here to do the same thing. We're here to serve our people. So in a nutshell, both service to our communities, but understand where you're coming from in terms of hapu. Our hapu is very staunch, and Linda would know.
Got skill.
Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, ka nui te mihi. Thank you, Rob, for your question. And I think, and it's one that we struggle with as councillors in terms of who we talk to in communities, who has the mandate, who has the mandated authority to make decisions on certain things. This is at an iwi level to council level, beginning of conversation and relationship, and I'm really pleased that Ngati Porou have asked if they can come to this table and be at the table with us to begin the discussions. As Whiti said, there's been a lot that's happened in the past, but we are looking about how are we going to work together to move forward into the future, not for us sitting around this table, but for all of the people who are here to serve and the Māori lens on our future generations that haven't yet been born. State Highway 35 is something we talk at this table about a lot, and the lack of service that it gets, and you know, we struggle with how in terms of the resourcing that's available. That's something that we all talk about and we all share the frustrations, and having, in my view, having the iwi in partnership with us, battling where we need to, and at a political level, and that's the role of Runanganui or Ngati Porou, is to they have their own direct ground relationships. So the accord that Whiti referred to is where the Prime Minister and all of her senior officials meet directly with the board of Te Runanganui o Ngati Porou. They don't meet with us, they meet directly with the board. And that's a critical relationship that they have directly, but also have a relationship with us at a local level. So I appreciate you both coming. I know you're super busy as well, and that you submitted this. I haven't yet read the Tai Rāwhiti and Toi Rāwhiti iwi submission. I'm looking forward to reading that one. Oh, is that a mistake? No, it's not, because as I read it further, it's all of the iwi in here. Ngati Porou, the four main iwi. Ngati Porou, Taitanga Mahaki, Rolo Whakātai, Ngai Tāmanuhiri, have come together at Toi Rāwhiti, so I'm looking forward to reading that. And as I said, we'll give these due consideration and ask Nadine and Linda to also be big on this in the very near future. Our next RTC meeting isn't until later, December, so it's quite a way away. So it's great that it's here now for us to consider, so that we hopefully have something, we will have something by then to work with, going into the taunga.
If I can just add, just a response to that question as well, is that there's a legal relationship between GDC and Te Runanganui o Ngati Porou that is tied up in that accord. So I'm not sure there is a choice, notwithstanding there are hapu relationships that we all need to work with and manage. So Te Runanganui o Ngati Porou realise that there is a clear legal relationship. We're just looking for the kīnaki to sweeten that up at the moment. We don't want just a legal.
And those will be referred to in the submissions that they've also provided us copies of. So, yeah, I urge the committee to have a good read of those. Extraordinary business. I haven't been told about it. Notices of motion, none. Adjourned business, none. And we're on to the reports of the Chief Executive and staff. For information only, you, Charlotte. Karen, welcome back after your big long break. Long time ago.
It was a very distant memory. So this report for information is part of our regular monitoring report on what is now, I guess, the previous RLTP, the 2021 one, having adopted the new one for 2024. So this is the last monitoring report you'll see under that framework with those outcomes and measures. The monitoring report going forward will be through the new framework, etc., that you adopted. So this is for the past financial year from 1st of July 23 until the end of June this year. It's a compilation of information across a wide variety of activities. So in terms of, probably just take the report as read. Happy to answer questions, may need to come back to you, re-answers as I obviously have a particular place in this space and I'm not a traffic engineer or etc.
Okay, so do we have any questions for Charlotte? We're on page, what are we page? Page 12 onwards.
Just a comment, Charlotte, I know you were seeking information from us that was delayed in coming through for a number of reasons. One, annual leave, and two, other pressures. So I just want to acknowledge that there'll be some gaps in terms of that data. So thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Linda. Yes, Councillor Thompson.
Page 31 talks about feedback on Grey Street and New Waka. Have you had much feedback, and is there a common theme?
So I'm not involved in that piece of my hair. I'm just looking down. No. In terms of, I would have to come back to you around that. I understand you are also getting a report specifically around that feedback as well. But I don't know because I've not personally been through the submission.
Okay.
Sorry.
Will that come to the ops infrastructure or?
And as also mentioned, we get a copy of the safety assessment at the last meeting. Just wondering if we'll see if that was furnished.
At our last RTC meeting or our last other?
Sure, when Dave had figures up here, he sent a copy of the safety.
It might have been in the workshop or at operations.
Yeah.
Operations
I think it's coming back to, not to this.
Not to this committee.
Not to this committee.
To the
I'll just chasing up that report, if we can still have a copy of this safety assessment.
The safety assessment was for Grey Street?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Councillor Thompson?
One piece here. So our current RLTP is the new one, 24 to 27, is that what we're leading into? So I'm just going back to page 19. On page 19, talking about to achieve this, our vision 3 priority investment areas were identified. So this was for the 2021 RLTP.
Correct.
Basically safety, reliability and resilience, access, planning and investment in programs and infrastructure targeted at providing and promoting transport choice. I'm just wondering there, so that was the previous one, what are our new ones? Have we actually outlined those yet? Or are they staying the same?
Yes, I cannot rattle them off the top of my head,
Yeah.
but I can, they did change slightly, yeah. But I can send, in the next monitoring report, I'll make sure to provide that summary at the start so that you've got that context for the monitoring.
It's not the previous one.
So this is a monitoring report from the last period, so looking at what has been done. And, is that right? Yeah.
Right.
So it kind of feels like it's all out of date, and it kind of feels like.
Yeah, and of course that RLTP was developed in a particular operating environment and context at the time too, and as we know, throughout that 3-year period it dramatically altered.
Thank you for the report.
Yes, Teddy?
The report that goes through
What page are you on?
page 3940 on riding bicycles on just wondering who did this survey?
So this is the annual resident satisfaction survey. So there's a particular methodology around how they come up with the respondents and it's based on meeting certain criteria around different demographics, including different parts of the community. It's anonymised though, so other than getting the percentages of, I guess, how that survey population looks in terms of age or which part of our community they live in, we have no other access to the data on who those precise people were.
I'm more concerned who actually conducts.
So it's an independent body that conducts this particular one. And we use this throughout different measures for our LTP as well. I don't know the company's name off the top of my head.
Research through the chair. It's Key Research Limited do our annual resident satisfaction survey. It's based on quarterly interviews, 50 people are sampled each quarter. And we were having a look at the validity or the reliability of the information that's provided. So they did try to incorporate it into their methodology and move away from landlines, because that was initially the approach they took, to a combination of online. It's still not perfect, but yeah, we are working on it.
Do you know where they're not based in Gisborne, obviously?
No, and these companies do a number of local authorities so that we can get some kind of consistent measures across the sector as well.
So it's based on 50 people?
So it's 100 a quarter.
100 a quarter, sorry. 400 at the end of the year.
Yeah, so in terms of the ends that you see underneath those graphs there, that's, I guess, how many answered that particular question if you're looking with a number. So like for the safety of the riding the bike question, that response 301 people gave an answer to that over the year.
Yeah, just to me, it just seems to fluctuate quite significant between year to year, and same with some of the other surveys. It's like too smaller. Yeah, just seems to be from year to year a big fluctuation up and down anyway. That's
Are they randomly selected, these people? So they're different people each time?
That could be, yes.
Yes, Linda?
Just a comment, I was enthused to see the inclusion of the Te Ringa Maimoa benchmarking. It's excellent to see that being used, and I just encourage all members to familiarise yourself. That's the Road Efficiency Group. It's a long-term partnership with NZTA, but all councils as road controlling authorities. And its main aim is to improve and provide support, guidance across the RCA network to help understand the better management of assets, make smarter investment decisions, continually enhance our own performance, so we all sit round the table as equals. The Minister is very interested in the group, and it is noted in the GPS. It's had a bit of revitalisation, but the quality of the data and how it's presented is quite a great snapshot as well of how you're performing overall, but as well against your peer group of other RCAs too. So just kapai, thank you for including it. It's great to see it being used.
But just to be aware for that one on page 49, it's from not the same financial year, just because there's a slight delay.
22,
Quite.
23.
But it's brilliant to see it. So thank you, Charlotte.
There's a lot of information in
It is.
there.
It's well worth delving into.
Ms. Tiri?
page 36. So one of the things is stopping places. Just wondering what it seems to be the highest thing for serious injury. Is that like stop signs, or is that where people pull off the road? I'm just wondering what sort of falls under stopping places.
So that's defined under the One Network framework, stopping places, and I can send the correct definition for you, perhaps, rather than trying to.
Yeah, just so you compared to everything else, that's a huge concern area in terms of some serious injuries. So it's just definition of.
Yes. can send out, yeah, I can send that out so that you've got those to hand.
I had a question on page 23, down the bottom under Tinneedletal Road. It says preparations for the early contractor involvement, ECI model. Is it ECI?
Phone a friend.
Page 23, Nadine, early contractor involvement model. For Tinneedletal Road.
What is the question you're asking? What is it? So it's a type of methodology for your procurement. So you can have early contract involvement where you almost have open books. You work on the problem together to try and solve it in a more collaborative approach than your traditional contractual arrangement where you give them an issue and then they go away and do it in isolation and come back to you.
Okay. How's that going?
I will have to get an update.
Cool. Some of this I feel like we've seen before, like the give a beep.
Yeah, so some of the information in the report is a summary, I guess, of some of the previous quarterly information you've had, all in the one file. There is some additional information.
23 to 20. Just on page 29 as well, the speed limit review. One of the concerns that's come to me from testing officers and driving instructors here around Gisborne are the multiple changes of speed limits. You're in 60, then you're in 30, then you're back up to 80, and then, and it's
Consistency.
yeah, there's a lack of consistency. And if you're a learner, or you're trying to get your license, you go over the speed limit, then you're going to fail. But also just for those that are experienced drivers, have a lot of difficulty in navigating the massive changes in the speed limits around the town. Is there a plan for? Plus, while we're on the speed limits, at what stage does the 80 k's out this way? Are those going to change? On the state highway out to Porou?
So we're waiting for the Minister to formally announce the new setting of speed limits rules. So until that stage, we couldn't really confirm what will or won't happen. You may well not have as many different speeds. They may all just be 150s everywhere, which might not suit everybody either. But the proposal for the new rule did enable 110 kilometre speed limits on expressways in certain parts of the country where the road's safe to do so. It also proposed to reverse 30 kilometre an hour limits on suburban streets as well, and replace them with variable speed limits and lower variable speed limits outside the school gates at pick up and drop off time. It was as well proposing that we reverse RCA's reverse speed limits that have been reduced on state highways and also arterial and urban roads that were put in place since 2020, which would impact some of the ones across the Tarafti network. But we're waiting to see, as a result of the submissions, how the rule actually lands, and we're expecting the Minister to announce that hopefully by the end of this month. So that will give us all clarity, and as well as that, a timeline for which to undertake the speed reversals. Where there is indications of strong community support, we can go out for consultation on that prior to reversing, but only for specific types of roads. That won't apply for all road types, is what's indicated.
Okay, thank you.
So it's a bit of a mixed bag, and we'll get some clarity hopefully at the end of the month.
Thank you. Any other questions for Charlotte?
I just want to add to it's quite confusing. There's 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And it changes, seems to be changing quite often. What used to be 40 is now 30. We got a ticket at 34 Ks. It's pretty.
Yeah.
And it is on those state highways. It does cost those companies a lot of money. Like they might get 2 runs in a day. And you drop down the speeds, and then with the hours and stuff, they only get 1 run. So it does impact it, have a big impact on a lot of businesses. You need to be aware of that too.
Yeah, so I think you'd like that noted, please, Charlotte. Okay, we're happy to move. Oh, I'll move it. Yeah, thank you, Councillor Gregory. Seconded by Councillor Thompson. Thank you, Charlotte. We're noting the report. And on to the NZTA report. Oh, sorry, all in favour. Thank you, Debbie.
Aye.
Aye, carried. Okay, now on to NZTA. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Just while we're waiting for that to come up, you will all be aware that earlier this week, on Monday afternoon, the Minister announced the adoption of the NLTP, the National Land Transport Plan, for 24-27. Noting that we've only just received the relevant documentation on that, so happy to come back at another time and discuss that in more detail once you've had the time to digest what it does and doesn't mean for you as a road controlling authority and also within the scope of the Regional Transport Committee. As well, it's a little bit further afield, but you will have been made aware that the Minister has also announced moving forwards with tolling consultation on 3 sections of state highway, 2 of which are in the central North Island, one being the Manawatu Tararua Highway, Te Ahua Turanga, and the other being Otaki to north of Levin. These are both new state highways, and under the current legislation are able to be proposed for tolling. That's kicking off on this coming Monday for a 4-week period, and it is part of the revenue work stream for diversification of the revenue that funds our land transport system. All of the consultation will be online as well, and if it is of interest, I can make sure that you get copies of all of the relevant documentation and the right links, even if it's only for interest's sake.
Thank you, Anja.
Okay, so that segues us nicely into time of use charging. I think we heard about it a little bit in the local government conference as well, and there's been some media coverage about time of use charging, and these are schemes that can be initiated and deployed by local authorities, by road controlling authorities, and they will be developed and operated in partnership with the Transport Agency. We would be the majority partner in those. Any scheme that you would want to enact across Tairāwhiti would need to be consulted on first, and then it would go to the ministers for approval. We're expected, NZTA are expected to have a significant operational role within that, and we've also been instructed via Cabinet to lead the development of a single technology system to support time of use charging. One important point to note is that net revenue raised in a region must be invested back into the transport system in that region. So this is another form or mechanism of revenue collection to support the investment into the transport system. Where it differs from the likes of tolling, it's not an end-to-end all the time situation, it is a time of use situation. And this can be used beyond, let's just say you were doing it in the CBD, for example, you could use that money that was generated there elsewhere. Whereas with tolling, you can only use that money on the road that you're tolling. So there's a little bit more flexibility here. Next steps, legislation is being drafted. It's being expected to be introduced into the House and then moved to Select Committee by the end of 2024. So there'll be further information coming out in due course.
Could I ask a quick question, or do you want us to wait to the end?
Fairly relaxed. Chair, what would you prefer?
What's your question?
Are you suggesting that we would charge people in Gisborne to go on a road at certain times of the day?
I am not suggesting anything. This is just a road pricing mechanism.
If you want to.
So if you want to use it, you could apply it. So if you think about, from our perspective, we have regional transport committees that cover everything from
Yes.
Auckland to Christchurch to Palmerston North to Gisborne. So this is a national proposal. That's something to consider what the efficacy might be now, 10 years' time, how it could be used. I think it's probably important for you to as well understand.
Yeah, okay.
No, I'm not proposing that. I'm giving you an update.
It wouldn't go down that well.
I don't know, everybody wants their roads in better nick. I just wanted to, I think I've jumped there. I think we just touched on that one, the consultation on setting of speed limits. Awaiting for the Minister to formalise and adopt the new setting of speed limits rule, and then we'll be able to all move forwards with a bit more clarity from there. Noting as well that that will tell us the timeline that they're expecting us to do this within, and as well there's no additional funding for this, so we do just need to make sure that we consider that within our maintenance and operations budgets. An update on this one, because it is a hot topic, Emergency Works Policy Review. Two things to keep you aware of. Post the consultation process and review of all of the submissions, which went to the NZTA board. The board did make some immediate changes as a result of that, primarily to policy definitions and process. The submissions were largely in support of. I think there was only kind of one discrepancy around fire and drought was the only thing. When it comes to the FAR rate and the qualifying events, the board has not made a decision as yet. They have indicated that the decision is unlikely to be until the end of 2024. The reason for that is that they have requested officials to provide further information, particularly from a meteorological perspective and a financial impact perspective, before they make that decision. A little bit the same as the previous Korero RLTP significant related activities. This was for the 21-24 RLTP. You will note up there for the Taruheru walking and cycling. You'll see as you go through the documentation on the adoption of the 24 to 27 RLTP, the funding has not been approved to progress for that. It does not align strongly enough with the GPS priorities. The State Highway 2 Waka Gorge Resilience Business Case, as I understand it, is in a similar situation. Next one, Streets for People. Gosh, bold. I've got a couple of updates, but I think you'll still need probably a little bit more from officers and community. I understand your public survey has gone up, and the amount of feedback, let's say, on social media has begun to level out as well. You have your video analytics in place and are beginning to analyse some of that once you get the first pull off of data in the first week of September, I think it is, and then looking to do another round of analytics, which is great. I think too, you've got your post installation safety audit. I think your officers are currently reviewing that. And I think too, you've already begun to have a look at some tweaks to the design as well, which just denotes responsiveness to some of the feedback that your community have provided. Similarly on Uawa, the construction is all finished except for, I understand, there's still to be some lighting put in. And also as well, you have, which is great, made some responsive changes to design from feedback from the Heavy Haulage Association as well. I think there is still some questions being raised around parking placements, but we know that parking is always quite an emotive topic too. So I understand that that's being worked through. The post-installation safety audit, I think, is just getting to be scheduled on that one. It's really good work. This is tough stuff, but it's really good work. And you're right at the forefront with the community leadership and also your council's leadership. Maintenance.
No questions, Steve?
I'm saving up. I can see it. Just on maintenance, big season coming up. There is a little bit of a tweak to the numbers, but it's a bit of a moving feast until they lock down the actual programme, but you're talking plus minus 5 kilometres at the moment. We've got quite a substantive renewals rehab programme confirmed. And so I guess what I'm indicating here is we're hearing the calls, and the GPS and our minister has been very directive that we want to see a lift in the performance of the state highway network, which we're committing to do. With that brings disruption. So again, working with your officers and especially with your communications team as well, to just make sure that we're in sync about what's happening when across the network. We are as well looking at how we drive greater value for money. Where possible, we can combine things together as RCAs, but also as well looking at how we undertake the work, the time of day, for example, that the work is undertaken to reduce disruption, but also as well we found quite positive success for where it's appropriate to do full road closures, get it done once, get it done really well, and get back out. That is hugely disruptive, so there's quite a lot involved in terms of community and business engagement and communications lead time for that. But it does seem to give a much better outcome in terms of value for money and from the road user perspective too.
Just on that roundabout, we get so many complaints on that roundabout over Christmas time because the gardens in there get out of hand, and it's under, it's not under council, it's because it's a state highway. Is there any chance maybe putting one tree there or something, because it's a bit of an eyesore over our summer period? We get so many complaints about it, and we're not in a position to do something about it because it's state highway.
Quite and noted. It's a great question, and I know your mayor gives me a call about it with reasonable frequency, particularly from a tourism perspective. We are looking at what we do in terms of the management and maintenance of roundabouts. To be very free and frank, our focus, as guided by the GPS on what we spend our operations funding for the state highway, the management of berms, mowing, grass cutting, weed spraying will be needing to decrease. It's not classed as high a priority as the state highway asset and investment in that money. So we will be looking at how we actually manage that, noting your comments. So is that less weeding and grass cutting and allowing it to become more overgrown, or is it changing the actual design over a course of time? Because it is a problem that we're having to weigh up right across the country. So noted. I think there's just two more. Just an update as well. I know that I wasn't able to join, but you did have the Trek team join your operations committee. Thank you for allowing them that time. They would have given you quite a full update on their programme of work. But just a bit of an update in your pack on the work that is happening and underway in Mangahuini Gorge. We have been focusing a lot on rock armouring the gorge to provide protection to the river. from protection from the road to the river. Also as well, lane replacement at dropout sites and also additional emergency works being undertaken at the landslide. We are looking at further work, and that's particularly on slope stabilisation, as well as protecting the river, the road edge from the river scour. Culverts and drainage, so some more of the proactive work needs to be improved around there as well. We continue, both TREC and NZTA, to engage with the community on a regular basis. It is a significant area of sensitivity and of cultural importance, but as well there is a lot of really great local expertise on what we can do and how we can do it. So we're trying to consistently find and improve better ways in which we work there on our current and planned recovery works. And just overall on the recovery, just a little bit of snapshot on what's happening. We'll see it beginning to, it's been going non-stop, but it will be ramping back up now that the temperature is a little warmer, and hopefully the weather remains as sunny and hot as it is here. It's not like that in Papaioia. But just where we're at the moment, approximately 30% of recovery sites have now been completed. The TREC team are looking to complete 60% of the recovery sites before Christmas time within this construction season. Money-wise, that works out to about 50% of the funding. So what that really indicates is the big jobs have yet to come. And by that, you know, we're meaning the work on Mangahuini, the Otoko Hill, there is another one that's Hekawai, I'm sure there's one more. But we're making sure that we continue with those recovery, the smaller jobs at pace, but noting there's still quite a bit at the design side on the bigger project too. That's all from me, and happy to take any other questions.
Yes, Rob?
Yeah, two things. Just the Waikiri Gorge realignment, that's pending by the sound of it. In a couple of weeks, it says here that confirmation on whether the project's been funded through the NLTP.
No, I can confirm that now at adoption. So Waikiri Gorge has secured probable funding through the NLTP. So for years 1 to 3, if you jump into the NLTP document, that is for further consent work, planning, design and property work as well in 24 to 27. We just have to go through the provision of a few more details internally to fully confirm the funding for the Waikiri Gorge.
For the new alignment?
Yes, for the realignment.
It also says here that funding is available for replacement on the current alignment.
Yes.
So surely we're not going to go and build a bridge, a new bridge there where the Bailey Bridge is at the moment, at the bottom of the gorge, if we're going to then do a realignment.
No, absolutely not. So all that indicates is that when Budget 2024 was announced, that allocation was part of that announcement to ensure that there was a permanent solution that was offered. The Minister sought further information from NZTA on the options, that was to continue with on the current realignment, on the current alignment, or to go for a realignment. No further funding was provided through budget for that, but the NZTA board have agreed that the realignment makes a more fiscally responsible investment. So that commitment of probable funding is what that indicates. What it also indicates, though, as well, is that while we do a realignment, we still need to make sure that we protect the viability of the current alignment too. So no, we're not going to put a new one on and do another realignment. No.
Yeah, and just the other one was after having travelled too much over the last few days. Just on page 56 there, just on the Mohaka Rail Viaduct.
Yes.
You know, stop go there, and it says here that that is because the new ceiling, the realignment of the new ceiling at the top end of the passing bay has all broken up already, and that's exactly right. But it says the stop goes in place for that, and yet the stop go was actually after it. It's on the Gisborne side of it, and it's because there's a dropout there on the side of the road and the barrier's broken. So you stop there because the barrier's broken, but the actual broken up surfaces is after that. So it just says here that traffic manager's in place for that, but it's not actually anything to do with it. It's to do with the dropout down there. It seems like something they could have been fixing, you know, all the way through about resealing because the weather's no good.
Only it was that.
It's quite frustrating. It is very frustrating at the moment, the time that it takes to get there and what is actually happening.
Quite. And we do regular drive-overs and have series of community engagements and business engagements on that section. To an earlier point that was made on the impacts of the delays on travel and journey times. It's currently now at the lowest that it's been since the cyclone, and we also have put in place a number of measures around school buses, school times and peak hour times as a response to the community. The other thing that I would note as well is that yes, it is frustrating, but a lot of the work that is underway, like the Devil's Elbow is a great example. Many people are focused on the elbow itself. The significant work is halfway up the road where nobody can see. And that's a lot of where we get, and we're trying to manage the kind of community understanding and frustration that just because you can't see it happening at the top doesn't mean that it's not in design, consenting, property acquisition, or doing abseiling and soil nailing off the side of the road. So there's a bit to balance. I do note your point, and I get very regular feedback on the disruption to the travel times between Napier and Wairoa. But as well, had a lot of feedback to the responsiveness in adapting the travel management to make it as smooth as possible. The team just did a drive over yesterday and gave me an update on that specific site. I wasn't aware of the anomaly in the pack, you are quite right, but they were having a look at where the sail's broken up, and we're working with Fulton Hogan at the moment on that one.
Yeah, and just one last thing, just an update on Trek. There's all sorts of rumours going around here, and you get confronted every other day of the week about Trek and 700 staff on it, and people say, no, they're gone, no history. Where are we with that? Where are they? Are they still here, staying, being cut back, scaled back? What's actually the route? Yeah, I want to hear it from the horses. I'm not being a horse.
Are you quoting them on that?
I think it's just, it's very just clear.
Sure. And that's some of the feedback and some of the rationale that we did, and we got some guidance from your governance team as to the best place for Trek to come and present so that we can keep you up to date on what is happening. So they are still here, and they are funded until the work's done within the budget that they got from Budget 2024, which technically will take them through to end of June 2026. I mean, if they spend the money and they've done all the work by February 2026, they would get wrapped up then. But that's when they have to have the money for the state highway recovery spent by, both in Tairāwhiti and also for Hawke's Bay, noting that most of the work is actually Tairāwhiti centric. To your point though, it isn't a massive rebuild alliance anymore, so it has been right-sized accordingly, so that we're not carrying massive overheads that are not needed. So in terms of its overall footprint, it's substantially reduced in headcount, and most of the teams now, when we previously had a lot of our designers and things based in Auckland and Christchurch, those teams have been shrunk down. We've just got a few of the kind of core projects that I mentioned that are still in the design phase, but most of them are on the ground in Gisborne and Napier themselves, the workers. So it is a smaller alliance now. I would say probably in my view it's fit for purpose, but it is still very much here and functioning. I just had the Minister for Workplace Relations out with the Trek team at Downer before this meeting to have a bit of a chat about health and safety across the network. Does that help? Definitely still here.
It does help, because
they're definitely here.
And has that cost NZTA a whole lot of redundancies? No, it doesn't. So under the alliance model, Trek doesn't actually employ anyone.
It's set up as an alliance that you have the 3 non-owner participants, so Downer, Fulton, Hogan and Higgins, and then we had Kiwi Rail and NZTA, and we essentially second people into those, and they all kind of go back into, for the non-owner participant employees, many of them have been able to be deployed to projects like some of the roads of national significance, so there's other pipelines of work coming on. What we have tried to do is make sure that we retain as many local people, many people returned back to help with the recovery work. So we've just been working through that at a kind of employment relations level to make sure that we keep the skilled workers and as many locals as we possibly can.
Thank you.
Iwi? Councillor Gregory?
Thank you. Just with regards to the, that you spoke about earlier, the emergency qualifying rate money,
Yes.
that you came out and it was going to be quite a significantly lower than what it has been. And you said that we'll find out that in 2024. Is that a rate like standard across the whole of New Zealand, or does the government recognise that some districts are much more susceptible to bad weather and they have poor, you know, soft stone and all that around here? So we're probably one of, you know, we're more likely to have problems whereby, does the government recognise that, or is it just a standard flat situation?
In short, yes, it is recognised. So that's your funding assistance rate, which is, your standard one is reviewed every 2 years, every 3 years. And it was just reviewed in 2023, and that's based on a number of factors, everything from deprivation index to rating base and inverse relationships for rating bases, to councils, you know, debt levels, all of that, and then they're set. The emergency works funding, so everybody's VAR rates are different across the country. And then for emergency works, you get a set additional percentage on top of that.
Yeah. And just in terms of Mangahuini Gorge that you spoke about, the work that's currently being done there, that's recovery work, yes? And then all of the other work that was going to be done there isn't going to be done, is that correct?
Correct.
That's sad, isn't it?
Yeah, just on that FAR rate, you're probably aware we put in a submission re-emergency works FAR rate. Just reassuring that they're actually thinking about it and investing time and stuff looking at that. It's good to know submissions are actually thought about. It's quite reassuring, because in the past it's like you do a submission and that doesn't seem to have any matter. So it is quite reassuring to see they're actually doing some work towards it.
Thank you. Yes, we received a lot of submissions.
I'm sure it's not just us, but it's good to know you're listened to. In the past, it hasn't felt that way.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda. Thank you for your report. So we're noting that. I'll note it. The second day. I'll second. Thank you. And that, well, I just wanted to bring us back to the discussion we had from the Runanganui, Te Runanganui o Ngati Porou. So thanks, Nadine, for sending that through. 18H of the Land Transport Act. She's emailed through that clause that where it says Māori contribution to decision making. The agency and approved public organisations must, with respect to funding from the National Land Transport Fund A, establish and maintain processes to provide opportunities for Māori to contribute to the organisation's land transport decision-making processes, and B, consider ways in which the organisation may foster the development of Māori capacity to contribute to the organisation's land transport decision-making processes, and C, provide relevant information to Māori for the purposes of paragraphs A and B. 2, subsection 1 does not limit the ability of the agency or an approved public organisation to take similar action in respect of any other population group. So,
Just a point of order though, this isn't an agenda item.
no, but I was just, because we had the public discussion this morning, I just wanted to bring us back to that particular piece in the Act that was referred to, so that you as our committee can go back and have a look at it.
Right.
It's not for discussion.
Right.
And then the other thing was in regards to the letter on the 2024-2027 National Land Transport Programme final decisions. We won't be discussing that today, but we will have a special RTC meeting next Wednesday following our F&P, Finance and Performance Fee. Is that okay? Just to give our team time to come back to us with some feedback. Okay? All right. So I think that's everything on our agenda. Thank you all for your contributions today and your participation, and we will see you next week, next Wednesday, following the finance and so, I'll just close our hui. Kia tau, kia tātou katoa, te atu whai o tō tātou areki Ngati, me te aroha, te atua, me te whengatahitanga ki te wairua tapu, ake, amen.
Thank you, Chair.